e-commerce platform. We retailed used auto parts, mainly in Europe. We this year we sent parts to more than 65 countries, but since our supply network is based in Europe, our parts are from European cars, so our demand, of course, comes mostly from Europe. So we start our journey as a company in 2013 with a platform called NetPack, as Itor was joking about the name. When Portugal Ventures made their investment in the company in 2014, we completely changed the business model and also the name to B Parts, B being the second life of the part, and parts, of course, what we are trading into the platform. So what we've changed is that we moved from a platform that the demand came from the customer to a stock-based platform. I said stock, even if the company does not hold any stock. We work with third-party stocks. In Portuguese, it's stock à consignação, and we showcase that stock to auto workshops and consumers. Our journey from 2014 to 2020 was with high topics and very low moments. It was a great journey with high and lows. We changed a lot of things. We begin very slow, so we did not meet the investors' expectations because I think the moment was right. The process was not very well done in the beginning because we start with a very low quantity of available parts into the platform. For you to have a notion, we start with 2,000 parts. We now have 3.5 million available parts into the platform. So the beginning started very slow with a low volume of parts. We had a lot of challenges because auto dismantlers don't have a digital stock. So onboarding new parts, it was physically impossible to start from 100 parts to 1,000 parts in just one day. So they had to pick up the parts from the shelves, take pictures, put them back, do pricing, etc. So Portugal Ventures actually pushed us a lot to go abroad. We start our internationalization to Spain in 2015, and then the market was much more mature, and we were able to grow our stock from, let's say, 20,000 available parts in Portugal to 150 to 150,000, 200,000, and so on until where we are today with 3. Well, in the beginning, we tried a lot of things, both online and offline, because we are selling to B2B and also B2C, but mainly to B2B with partnerships with insurance companies, and that played really well. But with the connections we had in Portugal, replicating that system abroad, it's much more complicated. We then tried a lot of things with digital marketing, and the turnaround was made late 2017, beginning of 2018. The company was always growing almost three digits per year. Of course, in the beginning, 3 digits is fairly easy. As we are moving on, it starts to get more complicated. But with this turnaround and doing the correct marketing strategy, our numbers went up to the roof. So I think then we found. So getting more in detail with this topic of how we made an exit during a pandemic, it all started in 2018. So you can see it takes a lot of time with big corporations to achieve an exit, of course, with highs and lows. So we first met them in 2018 out of the blue. So they read a newspaper news about B Parts. They just started creating a new business unit in the PSA group for the circular economy. So it was the right timing to meet us. They, of course, loved the company because our numbers were starting to getting really well. We always focused on our adequate to this market, because typically we see marketplaces aggregating multiple suppliers. It could be parts, it could be microwaves, whatever, you name it, and are not specializing in aggregating and selling the parts. That's the big difference between P-Parts and other platforms selling parts. We are purchasing from the dismantlers and selling to the customers, aggregating one return policy, one warranty policy, only one company invoicing them. So this is one of the big differences and characteristics of our business model. During this period from mid 2018 to our exit, they met us. Then after, I would say 4 months, they reach out to us to start trying to do a partnership. And after a couple of months, they saw that for that partnership with P-Parts to make sense, they needed to be into the company and not just be P-Parts a regular supplier to the PSA. And from then, the conversations evolve, and they made us an LOI with the amount that we rejected. So we had these 3 to 4 months, and the editor was also in this discussion, 3 to 4 months, like silent discussing unofficially the valuation of the company. This is always a tricky part of the negotiation. After we agreed on a company valuation, due diligence started, and this November, end of November, beginning of December 2019. And then they made the due diligence into the company from France. We flew to France to discuss all the details. And then they started a legal due diligence in Portugal during the pandemic that only ended up at the end of April. One of the key issues that we saw during this exit that we made in July was not being able to discuss critical details in person. We were discussing in English, they are French, so I'm not speaking my native language. They are also not doing it. So speaking over the phone or during Zoom calls, Team calls, Google Meet calls, etc., it's not the same thing. And critical topics were very, very difficult to explain. As you can see, my English is not perfect. The French English is worse than mine. So it was very, very difficult for those critical topics to be discussed during with video conferences. I think the will was very high on both sides to do this deal. I think that me and Manuel are very complementary. Manuel on more mature side, me on more immature side. And that helped a lot during these sensitive topics.